Good morning and welcome to this week's installment of our video blog. I'm Marcus Michles here at Michles & Booth. And let me give you a warning right up front. Today's video blog includes some math. That's right, I don't do a lot of math, but just to warn you, I know you've been told there'll be no math, but today's installment we're going to do a little bit of math. And what we're going to talk about is, when your lawyer settles your case, is that really the end? And in other words, if you've made an agreement with an insurance company on a dollar amount, is that the end of the lawyer's job? And is that the end of the case entirely? What I mean is, as a personal injury lawyer, we're battling insurance companies every day. If you get hurt in an accident, we're battling getting your rental car taken care of, we're battling getting your bills reimbursed, your medical bills, lost wages, and ultimately a total resolution, a negotiated resolution occurs. But the day that agreement happens, if you've been in this process before, you know you probably don't get your check. You probably don't get it that day, and you might not get it for some weeks. And here's why. Many times, personal injury lawyers neglect the end game. You know, once the deal is made, that's it. For example, excuse me. If I settle a client's case for $10,000, and I take my lawyer's attorney's contingent fee of 1/3, that's $3,333, leaving $6,666 for my client. But as you probably know, in most cases, there are some miscellaneous bills that have to be taken care of out of that $6,666. So the day we make the deal, there isn't a check there for $10,000, there isn't a division made of 2/3, 1/3, and 2/3 isn't handed to the client. Instead, that just begins the second phase, if you will. Because if the lawyer is doing their job, if the personal injury lawyer is really caring about their client, then they begin to negotiate with all of those lien holders, all the people that are owed money, to get them to accept less money on that debt. So let's use some numbers. Let's say that in that $10,000 settlement, $1,000 is owed to a doctor. Well, the day the deal is struck, a bad lawyer, in my opinion, could take his or her 1/3 fee and take the $1,000 and pay off the doctor, and then give the client $5,666, right? But if the lawyer's really doing their job, if the lawyer's really working towards the best interest of the client, you call that medical provider and you say, look, you're owed $1,000, but this was a compromised resolution. This was a negotiated settlement. And the client, the injured person, your patient, is only going to net $5,666. How about you take $500 instead of $1,000? I'll send you a $500 check today, and you write off the remaining $500. Now, what does that do for the client? It puts another $500 in the client's pocket. They now don't have to pay $1,000 back, they pay $500 back. And that $500 represents 10%, roughly, of their net. Now imagine in a bigger case with multiple healthcare providers, the ambulance drivers, the emergency room physician, the radiologist that read the CT scan, the anesthesiologist that gave you some anesthesia for the stitches you got. You know how these bills are. They're from everybody. And at the end of the day, if the lawyer just gets the money, takes their 1/3, and then pays off all the bills and gives the client what's left, that's not a real good result for the client. And many personal injury lawyers think, well, their job is done once they've negotiated the deal with the insurance company. I say that's not true. At Michles & Booth, all of the lawyers every day are negotiating those liens and those bills to maximize the recovery for the client. But here's the hard part, if you're the client. If you're the client, you heard the deal got done on Monday. You want your money on Tuesday, but it doesn't work that way if you're going to truly maximize your recovery. It's not quite as easy as I've described by just making a phone call. As you know, you got to leave messages, you got to haggle, you get the supervisor's got to get the supervisor's supervisor, and you got to kind of work your way up the chain to get to a decision maker, and that may take weeks. I mean, sometimes, in some instances, you're dealing with TRICARE, Medicare, Medicaid, government bureaucracy. Sometimes it takes months. So I have to tell my clients, be patient. If I told you go away for 6 weeks and come back and I'd have an extra $1,000 for you, you'd do it. And if I told you to go away for 2 months and I'll give you an extra $2,000, you'd do it. And understand, the attorney's fee isn't changing. That attorney gets their 1/3 on the deal. Every ounce of work, every hour spent negotiating those liens is at no extra charge to the client. That's just good lawyering. That's what being a personal injury lawyer is all about. Putting as many dollars in the client's pocket as possible under each and every circumstance. So sometimes when you get that resolution with the insurance company, that's just the first step. You've got a lot more work to do if you're a good personal injury lawyer and if you really care about your client. As always, if you've got questions or concerns, give us a call. Call and ask for me. Say, hey, Marcus, what did you mean by that? Call me and call me on my math. Say, Marcus, you're terrible at math. What are you doing? We were told there'd be no math. But anyways, if you have comments, give me a call. Go to forthevictims.com/blog and let's have some feedback and we'll talk about it. Thanks. I'll see you next week.